get the center, the foci? What kind of things are they looking for here typically when it says to graph them?
Center, vertex, and focus.
Center, vertex, and focus. Okay, so here we go. It's all about getting these 5 values. It's all about having the table values as well. So we're going to HK23. So right there, boom, there's your center. Center is not super useful here. Now your vertices, you take your H and you add your A. So 2 plus 5, 2 minus 5. So I'm using this formula here. Okay, so that's gonna move you right. So it's 7 comma 3, and then 2 minus 5 is minus 3 comma 3. So that's gonna come next here, 7 3 and minus 3 3, somewhere like there. Okay, you really also need the points up above here and below here. Do you remember that from class? They usually don't make you label them, but they come from major and minor axes. Basically, you got to use the B value or the other value to get it. You're going to go up 4 from there, and then down 4 from there. You really want to get those 4 points before you graph it. All right, so that's kind of the shape here. Make it look sort of oblong, oval-y, football-y, something like that. And then now we're ready to do the foci. So there's 2 foci, H plus C, so 2 plus 3, 2 minus 3. Basically, you're moving along this main line here. So there's to the right 3, to the left 3, and those are your two foci. Sorry, yeah, foci, vertices, and so on. It's another vertice. And that's kind of it for me. I mean, I'm not sure what else you would need to graph here. Is this seems sufficient? Maybe adding the ordered pairs, but kind of the same deal there. All right. We'll skip 2 just because it's, unless you really want me to do 2. Do you want 2?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, let's do 2, Matthew. All right, it's the same thing here. Very formula intense here, but that's okay. You're gonna be able to figure it out here. So the bigger number is 36 this time. So that's A is 6, B is 3, and then you have to find C. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared. That's gonna be your overarching thing here. You got to find A, B, C, H, and K. So this time 6 squared is 36, B squared is 9. So you've got 36 equals 9 plus C squared equals 27, C equals 3, square root 3. So unfortunately not a nice number there, but yeah, there's worse. H and K, I guess you get a little break here. H and K are 0. All right. And then if we go back to the equation sheet, which is really critical here, this is going to be the other one. And the reason we know it's the other one is based on where that value of A falls. Sorry, I'm stalling here because I don't have the equations. There it is. So this time A falls under Y. The bigger number falls under Y, so it's a vertical major axis. So the previous one is a horizontal major axis, which means you're going kind of left and right with all your important stuff. This time you're going up and down. And that's kind of your way to remember this, to memorize it is, if it's vertical, then you're going to go up and down with your important points, whereas the horizontal, it's left and right. Okay, so first point we're going to graph here is the center 0, 0, right there. Got it. Boom. The vertices are next. Notice you're adding A and subtracting A. So you're going up A, and then you're going down A. So there's 6 and -6, and then you're going left B and right B. Okay, and that's from the other one. So I'm sorry, did I say, yeah, left B and right B. Okay, so this one looks more like a football here, something like that. The foci come from adding C and subtracting C from the center. So 3 square root of 3, it's like, where is that? Square root of 3 is between 2 and, I'm sorry, it's between 1 and 2. So 3 times, 1.5 is about 4.5 roughly. In the ballpark, right? Like, you don't want to have it crazy wrong, but you can't just stick it anywhere. You got to kind of have a focus on that. That was a joke, math joke.
Mhm.
All right. You're not paying for math jokes. Sorry. So these two examples are really good because, again, like, everything falls on the vertical line and you just go left and right the other value. And then same thing here, everything falls along the horizontal line. That's really key here. Super key that you distinguish between those two. So any questions on that before we move on to kind of the moving backwards questions where you got to write the equation?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
All right. I do just need 30 seconds here. I'll be right back to move on to question 5, but I need to just check on something real quick. All right. Hopefully you timed me and I just barely made it. So we're looking at question 5 here. 5 is writing the equation. So we're writing the equation. This is basically about finding the 5 letters that we've been talking about the whole time. It's about finding A, B, and C, H, and K. The order really doesn't matter. H and K are given. That's really nice. Okay. Major axis is 20, minor axis is 14. That helps you to figure out the values of A and B. Okay, so the major axis is always 2A and the minor axis is always 2B. So in this case, A is 10, B is 7. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then to find C, you're using this relationship. It's not the Pythagorean theorem. It's what it is. It's that one. So it's 10 squared equals 7 squared plus C squared. 100 equals 49 plus C squared. C equals the square root of 51. So in terms of like, where is the square root of 51? You want to remember that it's a little bit bigger than the square root of 49, which is 7. It's 7 point something, a little bit. Okay. The fact that the major axis is horizontal is key. You don't have enough information to figure that out here until you figure out the value of A and B, I guess. No, that's not true. They have to tell you the major axis is horizontal. All right, so we're going to go to, we just have to write it. Do we have to graph it or just write it?
No, it's just right standard form.
Okay, so the reason you need to know that horizontal axis business is you have to decide which equation it is. Let me snip that in here. All right, here we go. So notice that the horizontal one's the one on the right. A is under X, B is under Y. So you just start filling in from this table here. X plus 7 squared plus Y minus K squared over A squared 100 over B squared 49 equals 1. Not too bad, I would say. Questions, thoughts on that?
How did you get 10? How did you get 10 and 7 for A and B?
Yeah, so I kind of rushed through that a little bit. The major axis is always 2A. The minor axis is always 2B. And the reason that this is because you don't actually know which is the major. You don't know whether it's X or Y. So you can find A and B. You just don't necessarily know whether they go under X or Y. Very easy to switch these, but the major is always 2A. If you go back to our problem here, see the major axis is the vertical one on this one. And in the first problem we did, the major axis is horizontal. It's the longer one, basically.
Oh. And also, how do you decide whether to use vertical major or horizontal major again?
It has to tell you.
Oh,
Or as we're going to see in 7 and 9 and beyond that, that you can determine it from the points. I like when they tell you. That's obviously best case. No mystery there.
all right, I got that.
Okay, so here we go. Number seven. So this one, we're going to make a really rough sketch here. And it can be really rough. There's the foci, and there's the endpoints of the major axis here and here. So this tells you enough because everything that's important is happening along this horizontal here, that it is a horizontal axis problem. And that's key. You got to know from the beginning, which one is it? Is it vertical or is it horizontal? Okay, so we know it's the equation on the right, which is great, but we still have to find the things here that I mentioned. You got to find H, K, A, B, and C. Okay. Since they're giving you the major axis, you can find A. 2A equals the distance from 5, 0 to minus 5, 0, which is 10 in this case. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So A is 5. H and K might be clear based on kind of the symmetries around the origin. Hopefully you can see that H and K are 0. Right. And then from this one, it comes down to like, well, maybe the foci equation. The foci always come from C and the ellipses. That's maybe a thing worth remembering, is that in ellipses, the foci come from the value of C. So basically, C is offset from the center position. So this distance right here is C, and this distance right here is C. And that also comes from the equation as well, which you can write, but sometimes you can just kind of eyeball it because it's when it's centered at the origin, it's really pretty nice here. So again, this is the center, this is the vertices, and this is the foci. So you can see we just moved H is 0, plus 3, 0, minus 3. That's how we get to these 2 points here. So notice a lot of it comes out from just a little bit of information. H and K we've got. B we get from using the relationship A squared equals B squared plus C squared. So you've got 5 squared equals B squared plus 3 squared. 25 equals B squared plus 9. B squared equals 16. So B equals 4.
And then you just
Questions, thoughts
plug
on
that
that?
into the equation.
Yep, you get x minus 0 squared, just x squared over 5 squared, plus y minus 0 squared over 4 squared equals 1. X squared over 25 plus y squared over, that's a 16 equals 1.
Not too bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. The next one's a little bit more difficult, so we'll look at that one. It's got some movement in the center, but a quick sketch kind of always the way to go here. So we got kind of like, okay, 4,3 minus 23. So I'm looking at that as like, okay, there's a point, that's call that 4,3. That's minus 23 there. So our axes roughly are like this at the moment. Endpoints of major axes, 5,3, so there, and then minus 21,3 there. So again, you can see that this one, everything of importance is happening horizontally. Okay, and there's all this really nice symmetry. Like there's somewhere where there's a center between the foci and the endpoints. There's some sort of center there that we're going to figure out. Okay. So to do that, if you had graph paper, you could probably just eyeball it, just count there, but you can also just find the average of the x values for either the foci or the endpoints. So the average of 4 and negative 20 is negative 8, and the average of 5 and negative 21 is also negative 8. So that gives us the x value here. Again, not to scale. And then the y value, notice the y values are the same in both cases. So that's going to be at 3. So that's your h and your k. This is the first one we've had that's really been more involved. Any questions, thoughts, things you want to clarity on for that?
So you find the average when there is a large difference between x values?
You can always find the average. So it doesn't matter what problem. If we go back to the previous problem here, the average of 3 and minus 3 is 0. The average of 0 and 0 is 0. The average of 5 and minus 5 is 0. You can always find the average. It's just that when they're further apart, like you said, yeah, you kind of want to maybe just do the math in that case. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're on to finding A, B, and C. A comes from the major axis. In fact, 2A is equal to the distance between the two endpoints on the major axis. So you can think of the distance horizontally as right minus left. You take that right endpoint, 5, and subtract that left endpoint, minus 21, and that gives you 26. 2A equals 26. You cut that in half, A is 13. The next thing to find comes from the foci. Okay, and I made this comment in the previous problem. The foci is always C. Doesn't matter whether it's horizontal or vertical. It's always C. So that's something to kind of remember. Put on a note card here. The foci is the distance from the center. Okay, the C value is the distance from the center. So you can think of it as, okay, to get to minus 8, how far away am I if the foci is at minus 20 or positive 4? Should be the same distance apart. You can subtract. You can do the right minus left thing again. You could do like 4 minus a minus 8. Or you can do the minus 8 minus a minus 20. They both give you 12. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay, to find B, you're going to use that formula again. So notice you always find 2 of the 3 letters, A, B, and C. It's kind of like Pythagorean theorem, but it's 13 squared equals B squared plus C squared, 169 equals B squared plus, that's 12, 144. So you end up getting B equals 5. They are often Pythagorean triples. Often. Okay, so now that you got those, and you know it's a horizontal axis, you go back and grab your equation here. You grab this, and you just put the numbers in. So we got x minus a minus 8 squared over 13 squared plus y minus 3 squared over 5 squared equals 1. And you essentially have it. Some instructors really want you to simplify your exponents, some don't. Okay, maybe 11, go to 11 next. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like you're gaining some clarity on this topic?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I like
I
hearing that.
actually thought it would be harder because the equations are somewhat different than a parabola,
Yes.
but it's pretty much the same concept.
Yes. Yes. You'll notice I teach things very similarly because that's the best way to learn something really awkward like this is just go through the motions a few times. So this one will make another kind of rough sketch here. Sorry, I'm sighing because again, this is a horizontal axis, 8, 0, minus 8, 0. Okay, and then 0. See, whichever one's the longer, it tells you whether it's horizontal or vertical. There's yet another horizontal. All right. The center is the average of these values. So your HK comes from the center. 8 and minus 8 average to 0. 0 and 0 average to 0. Okay, so that's your H and K. Your A, B, and C come from the major axis. So the length of the major axis, 2A, equals the distance between them, which is 16. So A is 8. The minor axis, 2B, is 10. So B is 5. And then to find the third letter, you're always going to use that relationship. A squared is B squared plus C squared. 8 squared equals 5 squared plus C squared. So this is our first one where it really isn't going to work out super nice. It ends up being C squared equals 39. C equals the square root of 39, which is a little bit bigger than 6. 6 and some change, maybe. In case you got to graph it, you kind of want to know roughly where it is rather than going to the calculator, especially if you don't have it. Go back and grab the equations again. Go. And just put the numbers into the equations here. X minus 0, okay, over A is 8, B is 5, equals 1. So we get x squared over 64 plus y squared over 25 equals 1. And they sort of always look nice when you get to then kind of this endpoint here. Like they're never awkward where these numbers aren't kind of nice squares on the bottom typically.
Yeah.
All right, so getting close to being out of time here. What I see going forward here, 13 is like the one we just did. 15, 17, these other ones are like the ones that we've already done today. So if you're stuck on anything, go to Desmos and graph. You do need to know that formula here. Let me drop it in the chat in case you don't have it, that reference sheet that I like. But that should help you with getting a good grade on this quiz here. So